You know what your problem is? I ain't got no problem, man. Don't tell me that. My problem is.
Fans saw Scrappy's tumultuous journey, complete with highs and lows in his profession and family relationships, play out on TV for years. Nobody could have predicted Scrappy's future reputation loss due to his actions. Known for his fierce temper and devotion to people in his inner circle, Scrappy had long been a mainstay of love and hip-hop Atlanta. It all started during an especially heated disagreement with a disorganized known for his audacious manner and tendency to stir trouble. A fellow cast member who was chaotic and never shied away from voicing his ideas had found himself at war with Scrappy over a small matter that quickly spiraled out of control. What started out as a quarrel swiftly escalated into a full-fledged confrontation as words were traded and insults were flown. Known for having a short fuse, Scrappy was nearing his breaking point when Scrappy was angry, he used more than just words to threaten Havoc. His tone was menacing, and the words themselves were not very interpretive. As the two men exchanged choppy words, tension increased, but Scrappy's threats were what would ultimately seal his fate. Behind the cameras, a man had stepped over the line, and the crew and producers who had witnessed it were shocked that this wasn't just another heated argument. It happened quickly. There were limits, and the Love and Hip Hop series had a zero-tolerance policy on threats and violence. Even though reality television has long operated under the guise of chaos and drama, the authorities quickly determined that Scrappy's outbursts had crossed those lines. Despite not being fired right away, Scrappy, one of the most recognizable characters on the program, lost his job. Was swift? Love and Hip Hop Atlanta had been a vital component of Scrappy's career from the show's inception. He had been able to display his life, his music, and his complicated connections with his family on the platform, but now everything was in jeopardy. After giving considerable thought to the possible effects on the show's reputation and the cast and crew's safety, the decision was reached. When the news leaked, supporters were split over a moment of vulnerability. Some were furious at Scrappy for being irascible and causing issues. For Scrappy, being fired meant more than the end of a television program. It served as a reminder of his anger and his incapacity to manage it. Others, however, saw the show's rash choice as a reflection of the thin line reality stars usually dance between amusement and personal repercussions. Handle it with passion in the days that followed. Scrappy remained quiet and pondered his actions for a while. Although he had always presented himself as confident and bold in public, the reality of what had transpired behind the scenes became apparent. He had hurt himself, which had hurt his career. He continued to appear on the show despite the aftermath, but the conflict between him and Scrappy remained in the historical context. Scrappy was absent from the show for the first time in a long time, but it continued. The lesson was tough but necessary, and the rage that had once shielded him now stood between him and achievement. Losing his position on Love and Hip Hop,
I probably went too hard or something, took something the wrong way or something like that, you know? So I want to say, I'm sorry to Khaotic, you know? We're getting somewhere. We're getting somewhere. We're not. But not. Because I can give a Because let me tell you something. When a go with me and he feel like I'm not a good person, I feel the same way he got. So we on the same page.
No, but he does not feel that.
He just said it. He said, hey, if you feel like I'm not a good person in your life, then you need to stay like that and don't stand on me. And we don't stand on you.
No.
Let's stand on you.
No.
He don't stand on you.
No, he said not. He did not say that.
What I said was, if you feel like I'm a bad person to you, then
Okay, but this is not about that right now. This is about you. How do you feel about him?
I never said I had a problem with him.
No, this what he do. This what he do. He say something crazy and he be like, oh, I ain't got no beef. I ain't got no gun.
Khaotic always trying to a victim. He'll start. Then he want to be like, I don't want no beef, man. If you got an issue, stand on it. If not, sit down and shut
fuck, bro. At the end of the day, like I said, bro, it don't even really matter.
Still gonna try to goddamn. He want everybody
Like, oh my God.
No, because we're so grown, we're making an assessment of our own thoughts here.
I be watching good. I be like, oh.
Okay, so wait.
You know what your problem is?
I ain't got no problem with
I'll beat your ass. You had a million times to do it. Why you get on TV and do it? Why you on TV? Man,
you a clown.
You got a problem with me.
You a clown. Keep talking that boy.
Although Scrappy's career and relationships with his family had their ups and downs, nothing could have foreseen the day when his own actions would bring him into disrepute. It all started with an especially heated altercation with a tense cast member who had never been afraid to speaking his mind. A man with a reputation for being brash and prone to troublemaking had found himself at odds with Scrappy over a small matter that quickly escalated. What started out as a quarrel quickly escalated into a full-fledged confrontation as words were traded and insults were flown. Who was near his breaking point as the stress mounted, having always been prone to losing his temper. Despite the acerbic exchange between the two guys, Scrappy's threats were what would ultimately cause his death. When he was furious, he used more than just words to threaten chaos. His tone was foreboding, and the phrases,
he the one who called me out my name, disrespecting me, talking gangster. I never talked gangster. I never threatened him. I don't play no victim. I just don't do all that fake gangster talking and all that. You can't let me talk to gangster. First of all, if I say anything sick or say anything crazy out my mouth, I got the right.
themselves left minimal opportunity for interpretation. The producers and employees who had seen the situation were shocked to learn that this was a man who had overreached himself rather than just another heated argument. Behind the cameras, things happened quickly. The Love and Hip Hop brand had a zero-tolerance policy for threats and violence, despite the fact that reality television had long operated under the guise of chaos and drama. Scrappy's outburst had crossed these lines, and the authorities swiftly reached a decision. Scrappy, one of the show's most well-known characters, lost his job. Although Swift was not immediately fired, he made the choice after carefully considering the Love and Hip Hop Atlanta had been a vital component of Scrappy's career from the show's inception. His life, his music, and his complicated connections with his family had all been on display on the platform. But now it was all in jeopardy due to a moment of weakness. Fans were devastated by the news, and some were upset with Scrappy for becoming upset and causing havoc. A catastrophic blow that might have jeopardized the safety of the actors and crew as well as the show's reputation. However, some were dissatisfied with how quickly Scrappy's dismissal in the days that followed was a reminder of the cost of his anger and his inability to control himself during a passionate moment. Himself also reflected the thin line reality stars usually dance between entertainment and personal repercussions. Scrappy remained quiet and had some time to reflect on his actions. Behind the scenes, the reality of what had happened set in. He had hurt himself, which had hurt his career. His public image had always been one of self-assurance and bluster. Although Khaotic continued to appear on the show despite the fallout, the animosity between him and Scrappy remained in the background. For the first time in a long time, Scrappy was no longer the focus of the show, but it would nonetheless go on without him. The wrath that had once shielded him now stood in the way of his achievement, and the lesson was tough but essential. The loss of both love and his place in hip-hop